A Brooklyn newspaper gave him the nickname, the Executioner, due to his lightning-fast violent streak and choosing to wipe out his enemies instead of trying to resolve disputes diplomatically. He was an old-school mafioso, a Mustache Pete, as the Young Turks called them, who held tightly to the traditions of his native Sicily. And even though he was in his 40s after the death of Masseria and Maranzano, he was allowed to remain. Born Vincenzo Giovanni Mangano in Palermo, Sicily, on March 28, 1888, he immigrated to the United States around 1921 with his father, his brother Philip, and a young Joseph Profaci settling in Brooklyn. Not long after their arrival, he and his brother Philip joined the mafia organization of Toto D'Aquila and became a force on the Brooklyn waterfront. As their power increased during the 1920s, Mangano earned a fortune on the waterfront. He and his associates would threaten to prevent cargo from being loaded or unloaded if the shipping company refused to pay a tribute. Mangano's men also forced workers to pay a kickback for every day they worked on the docks. These workers became his boys, and they would inform their boss of the cargo of each ship. Because of this, Mangano knew exactly what was the best cargo to plunder, and his fortunes increased. On December 5, 1928, Mangano was present at what is believed to be the first national crime meeting at the Statler Hotel in Cleveland. Another attendant of that meeting was Joseph Profaci, Mangano's old friend and associate. However, police took notice of the group, recognizing a few of the attendees. They quickly realized these weren't average businessmen, but were all reputed bootleggers and criminals. The Cleveland police immediately took action and arrested about 23 of what they described as gangsters. 9 of them were from Brooklyn, 7 from Chicago, 1 from Buffalo, and a couple of men from other places, such as Tampa and New Jersey. In 1928, D'Aquila was killed in a dispute with Joe the Boss Masseria. It seemed to make little difference to the Mangano brothers, who continued their rackets, serving Al Mineo and Frank Scalisi. After the death of Mineo, they sided with Maranzano during the Castellamarese War, and at the war's end, with the murder of Joe the Boss Masseria, Maranzano named Mangano boss of what had been the Mineo family. Now the Borgata would be known as the Mangano family, and was one of the original mafia outfits of the modern 5 families established by Maranzano. The other families being Joseph Bonanno, Charles Lucky Luciano, Joseph Profaci, and Tommy Gagliano. J. Robert Nash explains, Mangano survived Luciano's purge of the mafia's younger generation in the early 1930s to become a member of the National Crime Syndicate's board of directors. Mangano continued to concentrate his efforts on the waterfront rackets, taking control of the powerful International Longshoremen's Association, headed by Vice President Emil Camarda. Reports state that the two started the City Democratic Club, which was later reported to be the meeting place of what was dubbed by the press as Murder Incorporated, where numerous executions of rival gangsters were plotted. Among the members of this club were Albert Anastasia and Mangano's brother Philip. Although technically Mangano was Anastasia's boss, Anastasia spent much of his time involved with the boys from Brownsville. As a result, Anastasia gained a reputation as an efficient killer. Reports state that it was during these years Anastasia earned the nickname the Mad Hatter, though no one ever used this name in his presence. His violent tirades and his quickness to kill frightened many a made men as well as their bosses. Reports from insiders would later tell tales that Mangano and Anastasia would have such heated arguments during meetings with other bosses that they would have to be separated before they came to blows. Amazingly, the two men coexisted within the same criminal organization for almost 20 years before Anastasia's patience finally ran out. And though the Mad Hatter was a fierce opponent, he knew he had only one shot against the deadly Vincent Mangano. He had to move, and move quickly, he reasoned, against not only Vincent, but his brother Philip, who also had a reputation for savagery. On April 19, 1951, Philip Mangano's body was found in the wetlands of Sheepheads Bay, Brooklyn, fully dressed except for his pants. He had been shot symmetrically in both cheeks and in the back of the head. When questioned by police, Anastasia, with a sad, dowering look on his face, commented that the news of Philip's death was difficult to handle. Anastasia speculated that Philip was known as a ladies' man and may have been fooling around with the wrong man's wife. But the police didn't buy it. They knew Anastasia was behind the murder, they just couldn't prove it. In New York City, the case went down as another murder by a person or persons unknown. At about the same time, Vincent Mangano was reported missing. His body was never found, and it was just assumed that he had met a similar fate as his brothers. The New York Commission believed that Anastasia was behind the rub-out, and he was called before them to answer. He never admitted to having any part of the murders, but he did tell the commission that Vincent Mangano had put a contract out on his head before he disappeared, which was confirmed by Anastasia's pal, Frank Costello. Anastasia, who was already running the Mangano organization as his own, was too powerful and too crazy to be denied. The New York bosses formally agreed that he should be the new boss of the Mangano family. But Anastasia had set a dangerous precedent, the murder of a boss without commission approval. And just 6 years later, he would suffer the same fate as Vincent Mangano.